Forecast, as you can see, cloudy with possible rain. It's kind of been intermittent, but the temperature 22 Celsius makes it feel sort of quite muggy out there. The surface of the road, though, is a little bit glissant, if that's there'll be an Italian word for that. Sorry to back into the French. Stage 4 looks like this. We start off in Giro and then we head kind of north-ish, and then cut inland before destination Bari. 112 kilometres. Point is, we have a street circuit at the end of today. 8 laps of 8.2 or 8.3 kilometres. And then we will draw to a close. Sadly, I have to tell you that this Giro d'Italia has drawn to a close for the man who's wearing the red jersey and has been such a dominant force so far. Marcel Kittel, maybe the hot and cold has got to him, but certainly he has developed a fever, and so severe is it, he has had to withdraw from the Giro d'Italia this morning, and that is a huge shame. What it does, though, is it opens up the field to some pretty high-quality sprinters as well. It's hard to almost qualify them, but in the presence of Marcel Kittel, the likes of Buhani and Viviani, Ventoso, even Pataki, Ben Swift, of course, Michael Matthews, Ondo Nizzolo, Urel, Dahas. The list is huge, but there was one man who was completely dominant, at least for those stages in Ireland, and it was Marcel. He's gone, so who will it be today? Frankly, it is wide open, and maybe it's going to need somebody wily, somebody like Francesco Chicchi today of Neri Sotoli. He'll be easy to spot with his bright yellow, no matter if we do have some grey clouds to deal with today. As you can see, we're joining it live today because it is a shorter course right from the very start, and it is a nightmare in Giovinazzo, as you can see. Look how sheer the road surface is. It almost looks like a dance floor. It is not nice. The surface, that is. The rider's, reasonably comfortable, 22 Celsius, but there's a danger out there, Dan Lloyd, and they must be aware of it.
Yeah, there certainly is a danger. Of course, almost 200 riders still left in this race. A couple of abandons on the very first day from Garmin Sharp. Most notably, of course, Dan Martin, who was one of the favourites for this race overall. The latest abandon, as you've already mentioned a couple of times, Carlton, but for those of you joining us just now, the best sprinter in this race, possibly the best sprinter in the world right at this moment in time, Marcel Kittel of Giant Shimano, not taking the start in his red jersey today due to a fever, which he caught overnight. So a great disappointment for his team, for his fans, and for the spectators really here at the finish. There's going to be a number of sprinters licking their lips at the prospect of a win today.
So there it is, confirmation that he is not starting, and it's a real shame because he's on amazing form at the moment, but illness is something that you can't disrespect. It has to be, well, the body has to be allowed to recover. Michael Matthews then will be in pink. The red jersey will be on the back of Ben Swift, who now leads that points competition, courtesy of his second place in Dublin, and indeed his seventh place in Belfast on that sprint day. So, unfortunately, without our principal sprinter, but opening the field up then for all the others to strut their stuff. And look at the arguments going on. The riders don't like it. We said somebody is going to go for this. There's going to be a breakdown in communications. Paolini there with the beard. He's the man who's basically declared it. BMC aren't happy about this at all. Come on, let's go racing, says BMC. They want to get involved with this. It's almost equally dangerous when you're all together, and the pace has now picked up. So let's just see how this one works out, shall we? We expect racing and sprinting only for the final lap, but in the meantime we wait to see whether some rider decides to break for it, go for that gap, something that so far we haven't seen on this day.
Yeah, interesting there. It looked to me very much like Orica Greenedge were ready to come to a complete halt when they came across the finish line the last time through, and it was only 100 metres before the finish when the BMC rider there, Manuel Quinziato, the Italian, came up and shouted, no, we're carrying on. And so there's obviously a huge amount of disagreement between all the riders. In fact, you can see Matthews in the pink behind the Cannondale rider here, still discussing with Quinziato, and this has always been the problem with Insight thing, is there's no real union with people making key decisions, and so there's all these differing opinions, and it seems to be exactly what we've got again today. So, well, certainly no racing here again at the moment, no breakaway, all sorts of confusion amongst all of the riders. Quinziato briefly coming out towards the front with Luca Paolini and starting to ride, but well, basically kind of mayhem really at the moment. Nobody willing to put their neck on the line. Seems to me that the commissaires really should just say, okay, please go around at a reasonable speed, race the finish, we won't count the time at all, have a good sprint and take it from there.
Seems the only way that they're going to get any action today, because right now it's effectively a strike, albeit with a few dissenters. Yes, Niall O'Donnell says, I bet Kittel wishes he'd started today with a neutralised race. He might have actually managed to get round. I think his fever is such that it's going to take him a few days to actually recover. It's a shame, to be honest. He did look absolutely empty when he finished in Dublin. In fact, a little bit of controversy that a rider himself actually came and did a little selfie with him while he was still recovering. It wasn't a crash. Kittel was just absolutely exhausted, so he would have been at least in a good frame of mind. Ejadal, long of limb and indeed of experience, our former winner here in 2012, spectacularly taking it, and of course breaking the heart of Joaquin Rodriguez at the very last, winning it on the individual time trial into Milan in front of the glorious cathedral by just 16 seconds. And Rodriguez at the moment has got more than that to make up. He's over 90 seconds down, minute and a half and more, after what was a very tardy team time trial performance. We did actually wonder whether he'd been distanced and they had to wait for him, which was part of that. Maybe he had a mechanical, but no, it's just a dreadful performance in mixed weather conditions. But then again, there were other teams that rode at the same time in the same conditions and did an awful lot better. So yeah, it just fell apart for Team Katusha, and unfortunately looks like the challenge of Joaquin Rodriguez did at the same time, although could be made up, but he's going to need some great fortune, and unfortunately for him, he's got the likes of Rigoberto Urán for Omega Pharma Quickstep, posted the second fastest time in the team time trial. And so Urán is in a great spot. So is Quintana, who were up there in the top 5 as well when it came to the team time trial. In fact, I'm double correcting myself. They were 8th place Movistar, but only shipping a minute. And yeah, nothing like Katusha along the way. Here we go. We're back out towards the water side, where we've seen some spectacular, not ferries, liners, ocean liners, knocking around. A cruise has never been something I've particularly been fond of the idea of, to be honest. Never been on one, don't really want to go on one. I think being locked together with the same person constantly for 3 weeks... Oh, hang on a minute. Here's Dan Lloyd.
Well, I have been looking up one of the other classifications, which is the Super Team, sponsored by dItalia Saddles. Classification set out based on the sum of points achieved by the teams in various classifications, which basically means adding up all of the points from your team riders who come in the top 20 on the stage and the top 5 at the intermediate sprint. And I think leading that at the moment, Team Sky on 35 points. Giant Shimano second in 25. Oh no, that was the stage. Sorry, Team Sky got 67 points in that, with Giant Shimano on 62. Cannondale there on 49. So I'll hand back to you, Carlton, and I'll look for the next thing.
Yeah, you just carry on. Take your time.
I've got another one if you want.
Put some slippers on, make yourself hot.
Let's go through some that I actually know, about without having to look in the rule book. Teams classification, not the one that I was just talking about by points. This one is by time. It's currently being led by Orica Greenedge, 19 seconds ahead of Omega Pharma Quickstep and 21 ahead of BMC. The way with this one is calculated is simply by taking the first 3 riders across the line each day and adding their time up. It doesn't need to be the same riders each day. It's simply the first 3 from your team cumulatively across the race. Hence why Orica Greenedge are currently leading it due to that opening team time trial. So of course, if you're a team who wants to win this classification at the end, it's quite handy to have at least 3 good climbers, because adding those up on the big mountain stages leads to having possibly the best time. And it's often won by a team who hasn't got an out-and-out favourite for the race, because when you've got an out-and-out favourite, the rest really put themselves at the beck and call of those leaders, and will sacrifice themselves and then just cruise into the finish and lose big chunks of time. So you'll find it's perhaps a team maybe along the lines of a Trek Factory Racing, who don't have an out-and-out leader for a favourite, let's say, for the overall victory, but they've got guys like Arredondo and a couple of other pretty good climbers, and guys that can get into the breakaways as well, because that's another important thing with the team classification. There's certain teams or certain stages where through the mountains it's fairly likely that a breakaway can stay away to the finish. So if you manage to get 2, maybe even 3 guys up the road a couple of times on those occasions, you can really eat into other teams' leads.
To me, the worst corner that they've got to deal with is about 1,400 metres, because that is where the pace is going to be extraordinarily high at the end. You can understand now why BMC were getting a bit edgy. They wanted to get Cadel Evans up and to the fore. And, well, Orica were mobbing the front saying, no, we're just going to hold this. But they have had a preview. When it was dry earlier on this 8-lap circuit that will finish this day into Bari, they've had a very, very good look-see out there. BMC wanted the same privilege, so basically the right to go and do a bit of work on the front. No breakaway today to be wound in, but nonetheless.
Now, so perhaps he can now go on and have his own chances. He sits 8 seconds behind Matthews overall. A victory for Pataki here today potentially could put him in. Oh no, they've neutralised the time modes, haven't they? I'm getting excited over nothing, but certainly he'll be trying to go for a stage win today, I think.
Yes, he most certainly will. Bragging rights, if nothing else, for the big Italian. So watch out for him, and if he doesn't have the line he particularly wants, watch out for the elbows and indeed the fists. We've seen that before. We're timing them across the line because essentially we're waiting to see where Buani is. Have you seen him yet?
Yeah, he came through underneath our commentary box, a full 22 seconds behind this Orica-led peloton. Mitch Docker is the rider from Australia, and Orica Green Edge on the front. 22 seconds, Carlton. It doesn't sound like very much, but at these speeds it means you have to go just incredibly fast to get towards the front again, and I think it's going to be too difficult.
Michael Matthews wears the pink jersey. Don't really expect him to feature that highly on today's sprint. There are other sprints to come, and he's done a lot of work out there, albeit that it's been mostly his teammate. He may well prove us wrong. He's a quick man, Michael Matthews, but he really likes it a bit lumpier than we've got today. It has been rather a nightmarish day today in terms of the safety as perceived by the organisers and indeed the riders. Right now, we are getting ready to race. It's the final lap. All times are neutralised today because of the danger, so it's the sprint men who are going to have their fun. And indeed, Michael Matthews and his Orica Green Edge boys have done a superb job of marshalling him. But just look who is starting to come up behind, and it's Sky, of course, working for Ben Swift. He's in the virtual leader of the red jersey sprinters competition in the absence of Marcel Kittel, so expect Ben Swift to be very much at the sharp end. He's got Edvald Bosenhagen to help out as well. We have the lime green, of course, of Cannondale, with Eli Viviani also getting into position. They're never going to be that far away from each other. And of course, we've got Alessandro Pataki for Omega Pharma Quickstep. He's going to have some fun today because he's done his nursing duties for Rigoberto Urán. With the times being neutralised when it comes to that final lap today, it means that he, for once, has the freedom to sprint. And believe me, he'll take it.
Well, when we get onto that big open road again, the one I was talking to you before, where it was very wide, very straight, and they went right across the road, that's going to be crucial for Nasser Bouhanni. He needs the support of his teammates to get back towards the front as they go along the seafront there. I'm sure he's made up position since he came across the finish line. How much energy has this taken out of him, this long and very, very difficult chase?
We have an outsider here who's getting himself into a great position. Team Europe car and Tony Orell are there. He's got, I believe, Roman Zagar with him, former World Under-23 champion. So we'll see whether Tony Orell can deliver. That would be a surprise. See the lime green, see the dark green, bottle green guys. That's what we're talking about right now. We also have Kenny De Haas from Lotto Belisol, who may well do a unique one, although he's got teammates around him. It could be a case of just latching on to whoever you fancy on the day, because I think the lead-out trains are going to have their work cut out because it's so technical. It's breaking down, Dan. These guys have done their job for the day, and we've got a very select group of sprinters up front.
Yeah, if you've just joined us, the race has been neutralised with the bell lap, which they've just gone through, so no more changes due on the general classification. This last lap is simply a fight for the stage win. Points are still available. Oh, we've got an attack.
Yes, we have, and why
Puccio.
not? Yeah, take your chances when you can, and Sky are on the radio as well. What about that? Chapeau Bouhanni! Well, you can't take anything away from those who have delivered today, and look, the carnage goes on. We knew it was dangerous. This is a horrible surface, and now finally you see why. And I think he's taken a tumble at the very end. I hope he is okay, but that was the gutsier performance as you will ever see on a bicycle. Nasser Bouhanni had a technical, fought his way back on, his teammates went back for him, and the bravery of the man. We said he was a prize fighter, he literally is. He's a kickboxer. Well, today he kicked the door open and invited himself to the party. Let's have a look at this final turn here. How impressive was that? He had a lot of ground to make up, and at least now is the only time he could turn on the taps. He just had to believe. He got the head down, and he was chasing down his nemesis. Could he, would he possibly get back? No Marcel Kittel here, so it was open season, I guess, for the sprinters, and they went for it. Vilas, it was the man from Giant, and then right at the very last, Vilas running out of steam, and I believe Nizzolo coming in. Goodness me, confirmation about to come for you, but one thing is absolutely certain, Nacer Bouhanni is your man. What a performance that was. Bouhanni on the day, Nizzolo in second place, Tom Vilas third, with Roberto Ferrari in fourth and Eli Viviani a very brave fifth. No time bonuses on the line, but there are sprint points, and Bouhanni has delivered an absolute classic in appalling conditions. Vilas then charging up and over the ramp. There, Bouhanni suddenly realising, and just look at how the bike is skittering all over the place. He is a kickboxer. Today he had the kick, and indeed the boxing credentials. What a fighter, and what a day's winner. Chapeau, sir. Information of the stage results. Nacer Bouhanni does an amazing job, beating Nizzolo, Tom Vilas, Roberto Ferrari, Eli Viviani. You look down that list and it's some spectacular sprinters. Francesco Chicchi also there. Who's missing? Well, I can tell you, Marcel Kittel. But in the end, it was the surface that was the story. Look at them going down, and this is on their own, don't forget. This is not wheel touches. This is the surface. Hugely greasy when it rains. Some of you saying they should just go for it and man up, but believe me, now you see why it was so dangerous. Exactly. Vilas eaten up at the last. Bouhanni triumphant, and Nizzolo, the young man, second place. The roar from the Frenchman. Welcome to Vidiano. It's a unique destination as far as the Giro history is concerned. 203 kilometres ahead of the field today, as we have a rather lumpy stage for stage 5. It will be a challenge. It's a glorious part of the world, sort of medium mountains, I think you might say. We're not going to have too many major tests today, but those that exist most certainly will sap the strength of the quick men. If you thought this was going to be a sprinter's day, think again, especially with this wind. Just look at that windometer. Incredible. We have an 11-man break that's gone up the road. Some very quick men involved. Will they be there at the end? It's a big question. As you can see, we wait at a finish line, which is an uphill ramp, I think you might well describe it. Well, the rain at least has abated. Unlike yesterday, stage 4 was a nightmare. Just look at the road. It was black ice, and as far as the peloton were concerned, this was not a day to be dangerous. So, timeout was called. A lot of discussion. Some didn't like it at all. The bell signified the neutralisation of the stage time-wise. Everyone would get the same time. You could see why. The sprinters allowed to do their stuff, and what most of them did was take a tumble. In the end, it was extraordinarily thinned down. Nacer Bouhanni remarkably had recovered from a puncture very late on, got himself back in contention. When Vilas went for it for Giant in the absence of Kittel, who of course is left due to fever, Bouhanni came through for an amazing win. It was quite a remarkable series of recovery and triumph. Bouhanni also going into the red jersey in the absence of Marcel Kittel. What about today? Green and rolling countryside. A very nice place to be. Not a nice place to race to, it seems. We'll find out. It is going to be a rather tough day if you're a quick man in the saddle. They may well have hoped that this would be an easement, if you like, into stage 5 and beyond. Not a bit of it. Taranto, our start, round the Ionian coast and then up into Viggiano. Only classed as 3 in terms of difficulty, but it will be tough. Also pacey today, and with the absence of rain, many will be desperate to take advantage. This our starting point today in Taranto. Ancient defences on the coast and some modern ones as well, as you can see. Submarine, I think they could well have used one of those on occasion so far in this Giro d'Italia. Ireland not the only place with rain, as you saw yesterday. So at the sign-on, the quick men, of course, thinking about what they could do on the day. Wearing the red jersey, Nasabuani. Cunego, local favourite, of course, well, throughout the whole of Italy. And maybe the profile would indeed suit somebody who's rather punchy today. There, our red jersey just taking his position at the start. Balloons, as always, released. A few spits and spots of rain, but the road surface not quite as sheer as it was in Bari, and so not too much of a worry in that department. The climbs, however, most certainly a test. So they waved them off, and I've got to tell you, it wasn't long before a rather talented group of breakaway riders formed themselves. Michael Matthews, resplendent in the pink jersey, and the wind, which is bound to be a major feature today, already blowing a hoolie. Out front, some very fast men, including Ben Swift, Viviani, and several others as well, who can go extremely quickly. Tyler Farrar, with big hopes today, also managed to get himself in the break. Farrar third across the intermediate sprint line. So with such sprinting talent up front and some who can climb a bit as well, like Ben Swift, is there a possibility that the breakaway might well stay away? Getting up to a maximum of about just over 5 minutes on the pack. We'll see how it pans out. This is where we're heading. Looks a bit like the Ardennes in places, and indeed some parts of southern France as well. Partly cloudy, possibility of rain, temperature 11 Celsius, so hovering around the cool side, I think you might say. But look at the wind, 31 kilometres an hour, and a north-northwesterly, which tells you that it is a very cold wind, biting, you might say. Some might suffer along the way, but it's going to be the inclines that really do that job for all of us. This is our finish line. Right now we've had the traditional dances and we've got the break dancers now, which isn't very traditional at all. But they're doing their stuff. Meanwhile, out on course, the hopefuls in the breakaway are doing theirs. As you can see, 2 from Europe car. We've got Tony Urel here, who is quick, as you well know. Thoreau is with him as well in the dark green. For Lotto Belisol, we have Kenny de Haas and Van der Sande as well. So 2 for the men in red. The Colombian champion also here, Rubiano. We mentioned Viviani for Cannondale. It could be a great day for him if these guys stay away, but the climbs are probably going to cause more of a test than some would have thought. Ben Swift has already taken the maximum points at the intermediate sprint. Not a sprinter's enhanced day this, but certainly a big test. Daniel Lloyd, a lot of the teams that have quick men thought, at least on paper, that this was going to be their kind of day. We've been round the loop that finishes the course into Viggiano today, and it looks like it's more difficult than anyone thought.
Yeah, an interesting one today. Certainly people like Michael Matthews in the pink jersey from Orica Green Edge was touting this as a stage which he thought he could win, and we haven't seen him contest too many of the sprints so far in this race. He's as I've been saying since the start of the race, along with Ben Swift, one of the best climbers of the fast men, of the sprinters. Swift in the breakaway, which means that he's probably not thinking that he's capable of doing something on the stage, because it will likely be come back before the finish. He's got maximum points at the intermediate sprint ahead of Viviani and Farah. Those three all going for those extra points for the points jersey, so they're obviously very keen to rack up things for them and go the whole 3 weeks here. But in terms of the finish here, going to be extremely interesting to see which riders are fighting it out for victory. I think it could go in multiple directions. It very much depends on how hard the peloton ride the first time up here, because they'll then do a lap, which is very technical because it involves a descent as well, and then they'll come 3/4 of the way up the climb and finish the next time up. It's not steep by any means. It's not the climb where we like to see big gaps between GC riders. They're of course going to have to remain vigilant and not lose any time, and at the same time, if people like Evans are up there towards the end and the majority of the sprinters have been dropped, then they might well go for bonus seconds themselves. So I can see lots of different scenarios towards the end of the day. I think it's going to be a group of maybe 30 coming in towards the finish, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see 20 upwards or below that. Minutes 40, just around about 20 minutes ago, so they've taken almost 2 minutes out of these front 11. One little surprise to me not to see in the break is Chalengi in the blue jersey of best climber. He was of course the man in the breaks that scooped up all of the King of the Mountains points over the first couple of days. In fact, if we look here now, you can see how fast it is. It's very, very windy today, and it's putting the peloton into some amount of trouble. Orica Greenedge controlling things as you'd expect on the front, but not sure if they've been joined by another team, but that's certainly a peloton in one long line, isn't it?
It certainly is, and if you want strung out, you're probably going to see some more of it as well. We've got a number of climbs to deal with today, and they're described as ramps that sprinters might be able to cope with, but some of them are well into the 8, 9 and 10% in certain places. So they're not hugely categorised, Dan, but they're going to be a real test for these guys.
Yeah, I think there will be. It's one of those great stages which I was talking about over the first few days, where you just don't know what's going to happen. Of course, the opening sprint stage, we had a massive favourite in Kittel, and he lived up to all of our expectations by taking them in dominant fashion, and yesterday was always going to end up in a bunch sprint as well. Well, I say that, it was kind of spitters and spatters all over the road towards the end, but it was effectively a sprint which Buani won. But I think there's so many riders that have got a chance of doing something today. I think kind of bookie's favourite is Ulissi, the Lampre Italian climber. He was phenomenal at the start of the season at the Tour Down Under. I think he got a podium place overall and certainly won a stage ahead of Gerrans. Actually, if you're wondering what the stage finish is like and you know you're cycling, I'd say it's something that is actually perfect for Gerrans. So that'll give you an idea of what the climb is at the finish. It's not super hard, it's not easy by any means. It's something which would be perfect for the Australian champion, but alas, he's not here.
No, he's not. Svein Tuft, you saw a moment ago, displaying his tattoos. They generally tend to hunt for them, the cameramen, when there's a bit of a hiatus. Not quite sure what it says, but it looks like he's done it himself with a pin and a pot of ink. Don't try it at home, kids. Just ask Svein. He could have done better. 96.9 kilometres to go. Long old way, and the speeds are going to start to fall, and you can see that they're already on some testy climbs as we go right now. Out of the saddle and up for it. There's Edvald Bosenhagen towards the front. I think he's Team Sky's choice today.
Yeah, he does seem to be, as they will go over one of the other climbs that they have to contest with today. The earlier climb, actually, which is not this one, but there's a third category climb. The two here at the finish. One time they'll come through to the finish, and the King of the Mountains is a fourth category, around about 800 metres past the finish line. And then again on the finish line itself, whoever wins the stage will pick up maximum points on another fourth category climb. We can see it is still Orica up there towards the front, Sky remaining very vigilant behind. And yes, Carlton, I think Edvald Bosenhagen, the Norwegian for Team Sky, will be extremely motivated. I think it is a stage which suits him, a finish which suits him, and his contract's up for renewal this year, and there has been talk in the press that he won't necessarily be staying with Team Sky, so he'll be looking to increase his value by taking a stage win at this Grand Tour.
It's exactly the same scenario for Enrico Gasparotto for Astana. Also out of contract at the end of this season, and will want to be badging himself up as someone to look out for. Gasparotto not in the break, likewise Edvald Bosenhagen, but As you can see, the chase has already started, and far out as well, with 96 kilometres to go. There is a danger that this breakaway group of 11 riders, which has got some real talent in it, and certainly some of the quick men, might have a chance if they put their mind to it. But right now, the chasers, the main peloton, are minded to wind them in. And frankly, 11 riders is a decent group. But in the winds, you need protection. You also need people to just take their turns. And look where Astana are. We're looking at Orica Green Edge at the moment, of course, protecting the pink jersey, and so doing plenty of work for Michael Matthews, who's finding himself just bedded in behind Astana at the moment. They're working for Gasparotto, the men in the pale blue. Sky, of course, working for Edvald Bosenhagen. And maybe Michael Matthews has got something in reserve today, but I think against other fast yet much stronger men like Eddie Boss, I think he's got his work cut out today, and it might well be we see the jersey handed over. What do you think?
Could be. Might well be to another rider within the Orica Green Edge team. Let's not forget Santa Romita in the Italian champions jersey is also right up there on the general classification, so it might well be that he gets a little bit of freedom towards the end from his team. If Michael Matthews is dropped for whatever reason, if he hasn't got the legs or has a problem, then I think they'll hand over to Santa Romita to take up the reins and potentially go into that jersey. Sits in 4th place overall at the moment. Os from BMC is in 3rd, but I have a feeling that Os will have to stick by the side of Cadel Evans as long as he possibly can.
I think you're right. Cadell's playing the long game here, and he looks well up for it, to be honest. The thing about Cadel Evans, we spoke to him at the beginning of today, he looks just amazingly relaxed, and when Cadell's relaxed like that, you just be careful. Rabatini just stopping for a puncture. He'll get that sorted out in just a few moments' time. Shame to see that Kiki didn't function at full strength yesterday. For Neri Satoli, finishing 10th place, but it really was a bit of a lottery out there, and just getting the power down, even if you were feeling good, not an easy thing to do. One man who went very well and apparently has been bigging himself up is Tyler Farrar. Do you think he's got the strength to do it today?
I don't imagine so. In fact, I'm pretty sure this breakaway is going to get caught before the finish, and if it looks like Orica starting to struggle to bring it back, then I wouldn't be surprised to see the likes of Lampre do a job on the front to help them. So I don't see this break staying away. We've got a few sprinters in here who I think predominantly went for reasons of getting extra points at the intermediate sprint. It was job done for them. So to bring you up to speed on what happened there, it came, where did it come, the intermediate sprint? In the first half of the race. Anyway, Ben Swift took victory, as it were, on that point. Viviani of Cannondale 2nd, Farah in 3rd place, Kenny de Haas of Lotto Belisol in 4th, Monsalve 5th. So 3 sprinters there picking up more points and closing in on Buani, who also, in my opinion, is unlikely to be picking up too many points today. Yeah,
it's amazing how Michael Matthews and some of the other quick men, at least on paper, thought that this one might well be for them. Having seen the course today, and knowing what the wind is doing as well, also the temperatures have an impact, don't forget. It's a real proper climber or puncheurs test, I think, this one, and if you are one of the quick men, then you are going to potentially get found out. Gap's gone up to 3 minutes and 20. That's courtesy of a response from the boys up front, and also I think we've gone into these more technical winding areas, and it's more difficult to get a big bunch around some of these corners, as you can see, than it is to sail through with 11. However, those 11 we think will get caught today.
Oh no, the rain cape.
Has it gone around the wheel as well?
Whoa.
Yes, it has. Jammed straight in the back, locked up. Lucky to hold on. Nice bike skills, mate.
Looks like you've got panniers.
He'll be camping later. 64.5 to go. Well, he got away with that, I think. Good job it wasn't on a descent.
Good job it wasn't the front wheel, yeah.
Yeah. 3 minutes flat. That's exactly what the gap is at the moment as they come underneath that GPM. So they've found 35 seconds in about 6 kilometres. That tells you the power of the peloton, and they're using it. Arashiro's got himself into a good spot as well. And yeah, you never know. I'm beginning to wonder whether he's got something today, whether he's going to be able to, if he is off form, or is he just kidding us that might be the case. Confirmation of that first King of the Mountains, by the way. 7 points because it's category 3, highest category of the tour so far. Rubiano taking it ahead of Monsalve and Wegman. And got to say, Rubiano did a very good job, and here he is. And they're on a descent. Let's hope they all stay safe, for goodness sake. Camera pointing forwards, so taking a lot of the raindrops. The trouble is, when you have a lot of trees like this, Dan, there's a lot of road debris as well. The acorns and the little flowers that produce that fruit on the oak trees actually have a little covering, and it's all over the road. It forms a mush, and it's not very nice to ride over, especially when it's wet.
No, we drove up the finishing climb today. They were cutting the grass on the side of the road as well, so that was good timing. Being sarcastic there, of course.
Somebody clearly said, guys, we need to cut the edges. And I said, yeah, tomorrow. And then they said, yeah, tomorrow too often. And then it was today. Unfortunately.
It was weird that they were talking to each other in English with Italian accents, wasn't it?
Yeah, we picked that up straight away. No, I just translated. Or at least imagined the conversation, which is how I do most of my translations. Thought I'd get that one in before you did. 64.1 kilometres to go. Pace reasonably high. A lot of road frost damage, as you can see. You've got to be careful of that too. When you get that fracturing, if it's not been repaired and not been repaired properly, it can just cause occasionally just a pinch puncture. So stay centre of the road and try and stay away from the crevices if you possibly can. There's Arashiro still working his way. Yeah, he's sort of unzipped and ready for action, I think is the expression at the moment. He's keeping himself cool on a cold day. What's that?
It's going to be something where I think we'll see a group of 40 or 50 come up here the first time, but it's even within that group going to be important to be positioned towards the front if you possibly can.
A long, strung out bunch of riders. I've got trouble with my computer up, by the way, so I'm just trying to get it up and running so that I can have a chat with somebody. Gets a ball, acknowledged quick man as we speak.
Nasty crash for Bowl yesterday. In fact, had a photo of himself on Twitter with a neck brace. Obviously hasn't stopped him from taking the start of today, but he's probably feeling the effects of that crash yesterday. Let's hope he gets through the rest of the race.
Yes, hope so. Injuries like that, as well as sort of shock injuries, Dan, where you go down and everything jars, it can take a few days to actually reveal itself fully as an injury, can't it?
It can, and it also takes energy out of your body in terms of the fact that it has to repair it. It's little things that you don't necessarily feel too bad, but it does take enough out of you that it makes it harder to get through the rest of the stages. A quick recap then for those of you joining us. We've got 11 riders up the road today. They went after kilometre 3. Slightly surprising at the size of the group and also perhaps the quality of it. Ben Swift is within this group. The Team Sky rider took maximum points at the intermediate sprint ahead of Viviani and Farah. Other riders in the group, Kenny De Haas is in here from Lotto Belisol. He's joined by his teammates Van der Sande. We've got Monsalve in the yellow of Neri Sotoli. Turo is here for Europe Car, along with his teammate as well. We've also got Rubiano, the Colombian champion from Androni, stage winner here 2 years ago. Frapporti is the other Androni rider in this group, which is comprised, as I said, of 11. Orica Green Edge, as you might expect, have been doing the chasing duties behind. Maximum time gap was around about 5.5 minutes. And as you saw on your screens just a few moments ago, they've pulled that back to around about 2.5. So a good job being done by the Australians and the other nationalities within that team.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. A bit of a frog in the throat. Here are our breakaway riders then. And we're on one of these little descents. It's a sort of a rolling day. It's we said it would be the sort of day where you actually quite fancy it. The question is, who do you fancy to get the victory today? Having a teammate in a situation such as this is a great help, and there's a couple of teams in the break here. Garmin, remarkably, despite the fact that they are short-handed without Fernandez now, and Daniel Martin, of course, sadly injured very early on in Ireland. They've got Farah and Wegman up here. We've seen Wegman looking very lively. Farah very much the protected rider. And I guess provided one of your teammates is with you and can do the work and be seen by the group as well to be putting the effort in, it allows you the luxury of having a man in the break who's essentially protected. Same deal for Europe Car with Tony Orell as the fast man for later on, with Bjorn Thoreau, who's doing most of the work on behalf of Orell. So he's taking his turn on behalf of both them on the lumpy stuff. Kenny de Haas is a quick man from Lotto Belisol in the break, and it's Van der Sande who is on duty at the moment for them. The others who are having to do it themselves are Frapporti for Androni Giocattoli, Rubiano, the Colombian, he's in the break. Viviani is also here, but all alone, I might add, for Cannondale. Monsalve for Neri Satoli, decent in this sort of circumstance. He's lone as well. And Ben Swift is on his Jack Jones. That's currently rhyming slang for alone. He's also up the road, but Sky are chasing. Now, part of the push. In fact, they've just eased back from that position, Dan. I'm just wondering whether they're now believing that Ben's got what it takes today, and maybe it's not going to be Ed Valbosenhagen.
No, well, they haven't actually been on the front chasing. They've just been very vigilant here, near to the front, just monitoring Orica Green Edge and making sure that they're in the right position, saving energy there. Not to put their noses in the wind so far to actually do any chasing, and they won't do until Ben Swift is caught, because they'll be leaving him out of the rides that we've got in this group at the front. He's one of the strongest, so it's good position for Team Sky to be in. They've got some very, very important points for the red jersey competition for Ben Swift, and it's allowed them to be able to sit back behind and be relaxed and not have to do any work on the front.
We saw a few moments ago, just before a picture break, has gone off the front. He's decided to just inject a little bit of pace. He's frankly a bit fed up out there and decided that he's going to just liven matters up, and why not? He's having a push.
Yeah, and good a push it is as well. He seems to have distanced all of the other 10 break. Oh, I said that. He's just coming into the background behind. So
this is what it needs, though, Dan. It needs somebody. We said this group is perhaps too big for some of these guys, and he's decided that pace needs to happen. And he's just tired of the gap starting to fall and decided to go and do something about it. We have water carrying duties going on at the moment. Let's see how effective this is.
Yeah, Tosh Van der Sande being caught. Sometimes it does need a bit of a shake-up in the breakaway if people aren't working well together, but if it doesn't work like it hasn't in that occasion, it sometimes can mean that people refuse to start working with each other, and if that is the case, then the gap comes tumbling down very quickly. And talking of the gap, it seems to have come down under a minute for the first time. All of those cars on the side of the road were sat behind the breakaway, and they've been called to one side by the race commissaires, because that's the rules. If it's under a minute, then you have to pull those cars out, and just remaining with the front riders will be the neutral service vehicle, just in case they have any problems. They'll have a range of wheels with different cassettes there to help them out, but you should imagine if they puncture now, they'll pretty much be caught by the peloton. But going back to the disc brake question, yeah, I read a very interesting article. I have used a road bike with disc brakes. In fact, almost exactly a year ago, I had a Colnago disc brake bike, doing some previews for the Giro d'Italia stages, and it was a lovely bike. I couldn't really test it to its maximum for the simple reason that the brakes were back to front for me. Being English, I have my right brake as my front one and my left brake as my rear one. They were the other way around, as you would get normally in most of the rest of the world, to be honest. Certainly in the US and in Europe, bikes will come provided with left as the front brake. It made it very difficult to test the differences in the brakes, because of course the majority of the time I'm just concentrating on not pulling on too much back brake. Do the majority of braking with your front brake, that's what slows you down easiest. If you do too much back brake, particularly on a descent, you'll find that your rear wheel will skid out very easily. In fact, that's very close to what ended up happening for me the other day, but I'll bring you more on this disc brake article in a minute.
This is the artificial lake, the Agri River. It's a small one, and it serves, it's an artificial lake, so it's not a reservoir. The water that it produces serves the chemical plant that I was telling you about, that basically provides all the employment for the good folk of Viggiano. So if you're wondering about the lake and where are the pleasure boats, there aren't any, because occasionally they have to drain it for the chemical factory, which exists beyond the other end of the lake, actually. So this is their water supply, of which plenty seems to be falling over the last few days. Stage 5 of the Giro d'Italia. We're heading for Viggiano. There are a couple of very testy climbs still to come along the way, and these guys are in the break. They've been out there for much of the day. Frapporti for Androni Giocattoli, Eli Viviani from Cannondale, Rubiano, the Colombian champion from Team Colombia, Tyler Farrar and Fabian Begman, both of Garmin Sharp, the short-handed team, courtesy of the injuries to Dan Martin and Fernandez in Ireland. Kenny de Haas and Van der Sande are both here for Lotto Belisol. Van der Sande trying to put a bit of pace into this break because the gap is coming down due to the chase that's being put on by Orica Green Edge at the moment. Monsalve is also on the break for Noé Satoli. Likewise, Tony Urel and Bjorn Theroux of Europcar. So they with teammates as well. It is Urel who's the fast man for them. Team Sky of Ben Swift, and Sky just keeping themselves very much towards the pointy end here. You can see them just behind the Italian champion of Santa Romita, who potentially is the chosen man as far as Orica Green Edge are concerned, but you never know. 43 kilometres to go until the finish line, and the gap started to come down. Responding to that, Van der Sande, who said, I want this expanding again, but it's holding around 1:40 as we speak. There we go, over the wall once more, the dam wall. They're going to make a turn. This is not that far away. It's very, very visible from our hotel. I reckon they've got about 15 kilometres to go before they start the climb down.
Yes, must be around about that. We've got a little bit of a split in the front group at the moment. Here we go then. Van der Sande again goes away, and following him, Rubiano, or at least they seem to have sat up now. Van der Sande is determined to go up the road from this breakaway. There is, of course, a prize each day for the most aggressive rider, which generally goes to the person who's been off the front of the peloton for the longest amount of time, and maybe he's going for that, or maybe he genuinely wants to increase the gap or hold steady the gap to the main peloton because he's feeling strong. Certainly seems to be going well.
I think Tosh Van der Sande is going to go for a long one. There you go. There's a little prediction, because he's looking sprightly.
A prediction after he's been for 2 long ones already?
No, I think he will try and make it stick, as opposed to just soften everybody up and try and thin it down. I think he believes he's got some legs today. Well, he looks like he certainly has. Well, both of them. There is the pack at the moment, and they can't really decide what to do. How close and how dangerous is it now for these guys if they just give them a little bit of room? And look, Van der Sande has drawn out a response, and that's what we like.
Yeah, one of the Europcar riders coming up to the back wheel. Looks to me like the big German Theroux, who we saw on the attack at Tirreno Adriatico. He's been joined by Flaporti from Androni. 3 men up here at the front, but none of them really gaining much time on the group behind, and this is not going to do them much good in terms of trying to keep a gap to this main peloton. I think that they might have slowed slightly in the main peloton. I was just looking on my other screen. Seems a number of guys stopped at the side of the road to answer a call of nature, so that generally means that there's been a little bit of a slowing, because they don't want to have to spend too much energy coming back on. But really the last chance for them to do that, eat and drink, as you can see many of them doing now, before crunch point of this race, which is literally just around the corner.
Forward to it, and you, as you look on at home, when they drag up to the finish line, it will look more benign than it actually is, because it's a wide open highway, so there's a lot of sort of approach options, let's put it that way. But it really is nasty, and the descent that they will take over the top in Viggiano, when they'll come all the way back round and do it all again, at least they've had a preview and they'll know how they're going to go for it later on. But I think they're factoring without this nasty descent, and indeed just how tough this climb is going to be. Everyone wants a piece of the road at the moment, though, that's for sure. So they want not only a good look, but they don't want anyone breaking for this at a crucial moment in the day.
Well, amongst the riders who did stop at the side of the road are these 2 men. The Italian champion from Orica Green Edge, Santa Romita, and alongside him, or just behind him, should I say, is the pink jersey, still resplendent on the back of Michael Matthews. So that's why there's been a slight slowing of the peloton. Might have been a deliberate manoeuvre by Orica Green Edge. The gap was coming down perhaps quicker than they were expecting or wanting, and a way of making that gap go back up again is for the pink jersey to stop at the side of the road, because no one's going to animate and light up the race when that happens. So gap's now gone back up to 1 minute and 47 seconds.
I like this little conversation going on here. Van der Sande saying, look, I'm not going to keep doing this unless you come and help out. That was to Theroux. Theroux said, I can't help out because I'm looking after Tony Urel.
Well, I think Van der Sande is still off the front on his own. That must have been Kenny de Haas talking to...
I don't think it was, but I think they're back together. But let's have a look in just a few moments' time. Do you know what?
Go on, say it.
At this moment, you're wrong, because that's...
that is Kenny de Haas.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I'm going to go home.
You were just expecting the big up there, weren't you? And it's a big down. That little sound of air being let out is actually Dan just deflating. I got it right. There we are. So in fact it was Van der Sande haranguing Thoreau, saying, look, you didn't come and do the work, so it's your own fault. Meanwhile,
you've got no idea how upset I am to be wrong.
Morel's gone off. Yeah, it's a little swapsy. So punch and counter punch is what you can do if you've got teammates, as spotted by me. Michael Matthews having a chat about today, and it's going along the lines of, yeah, it's a bit more testy than we thought, mate, so maybe this is not today. I'll probably get this wrong and he'll win it, hands down.
Send your complaints into @Carlton Kirby. Yeah, Matthew White, the sports director from Orica Greenedge there, just giving some last-minute instructions to his leader for the day, Michael Matthews, on what's coming up, how to play things towards the end. It's something which, of course, they will have discussed in quite some length, probably last night, but also this morning on the bus when they will have had their final team meeting. And as I said, surprised to see so many riders let up the road in the breakaway this morning. I wouldn't imagine that was part of their plan for today, but certainly they'll have a plan in place for the final part of this stage, which is just coming up now. And Matthews has been very motivated for this stage for a long time, believes he can win it. I'm not completely sure, but quite happy to be persuaded if he does do well. Yeah,
if he proves us wrong, well, how fantastic will that be? It will show he's absolutely at the form, well, not only in terms of his physical shape, but also his mental demeanour and knowing what he can do and delivering. We love all that sort of stuff, just like Buani yesterday. Orica Greenedge being joined towards the front now. They're spread wide across the road, and guess what? Cannondale also joining the fun, at least that side, looking after Basso today. And likewise Danny Ratto, perhaps. Yeah, punch these days remains to be seen. We haven't seen you know, this kind of form for many years, which saw him win 3 times the Tour of Lombardy, the Giro d'Italia 10 years ago this year, I think it was 2004, that he won it as a 22 or 23-year-old. Incredibly young he was then. I think you would have said that probably he was going to go on to win at least another Grand Tour or two. Whether or not it was the Giro d'Italia or the Tour or the Vuelta remained to be seen, but that was the best we saw in terms of a Grand Tour performance from Cunego. He very much upset his teammate Simone in Lampre at the time. Was it? No, it was Seiko, wasn't it? The red Seiko train that they rode for then. It's amazing actually how you can get upset by your own team. Peter Sagan as well is now sort of principal within Cannondale, but it took a little bit of skirmishing for him actually to achieve that position. And in fact, I remember his team were highly critical of his performance into Arezzo, I think it was, on the Tirreno Adriatico a couple of years ago, Dan, where he decided to go for the victory and was supposed to be a support rider on that day. Who was that with? Cannondale, I believe. No, but who was Liquigas? Who was he supposed to be sporting? I'm just trying to remember who it was. Oh, yeah, it was Nibali, was it? That's right. When it was Liquigas. That's right. And in fact, Nibali, I think, partially, it may well have been because of that, he decided to head off to Astana because he wasn't getting the support because Sagan was the guy. Well, I guess there always comes a point where there's a changing of the guard, and that's going to happen pretty soon again for Cannondale. They're still putting all of their eggs into the basket of Ivan Basso, who's won this race twice, but, you know, he's getting on a little bit now. He must be 36, 37 years of age. He'll be up here towards the front, no doubt. He loves being at the front of the peloton all the time, trying to be safe. He's a very professional rider. He just hasn't shown much this year, which, as we've already mentioned in previous days, isn't normally something for him to worry about. It's fairly usual for him on the run up to the Giro, but he said he is actually genuinely worried himself. He hasn't felt the sensations that he'd hoped for on the run up to this race, and remains to be seen how he will fare in the mountains. I think it was a Rati for Seb Arezzo, a Rati where he basically... No, it was Chieti. Yeah. It was one of those. It was a lovely cafe opposite called the Cafe Chieti. Victoria. Remember that? We've done a lot of miles together. 23.6 kilometres to go, and yeah, the pack has closed this right down, just 44 seconds down, and it's basically curtains. Well, it's really been injected with pace, that peloton, due to the fact that everyone's fighting for position for when they come into this final circuit. I'll let you take over again, Carlton. I'm going to do a little bit of an investigation, which I should have done before now, on how they enter the circuit. Yes, Dan's been a bit tardy. He was hunting down a pasty earlier on. That's the reason why. He kindly brought me one back as well. So forgot to give you the bill for that. No, you lost out of that because of the bet earlier on. 23.1 kilometres to go, and yeah, down to 4. But it'll be down to none before you know it. There are the others from the breakaway, so 4 out front, but it's only less than a minute with 22.9 kilometres to go. So most of the break have now been reabsorbed. We have 4 riders up the road, but the pace is on, and this, well, it's going to be about the chosen ones within each team, and for that, it's a bit of a conundrum. Who do you pick?
I don't know, but I'm just going to quickly get in, having done my last-minute research, that they're about to turn right in about a kilometre's time. I'm pretty sure that out there at the moment it's headwind. There you can see the right turn at your screens at the moment.
Very good, yeah. Nice research.
Yeah. But what that means is, I'm pretty sure, is that they're going to turn into a tailwind. So it's going to be extremely fast from then on. You can see Omega Pharma Quickstep are the team on the front at the moment. Second in line there from them is Alessandro Patacchi. He's been doing a sterling job for his team already so far, and Rigoberto Urán, the Colombian, of course, is their team leader, second overall here last year. Also got Giant Shimano. It's a bit of a surprise to see them on the front. We've mentioned the guy they'll be working for, which is likely to be Geksha. These 4 going to be caught very, very soon with the speed that they're going behind. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see them just around this corner, have a look behind and see the peloton coming down them, and not to carry on much further.
Nice to see the cameraman point
At some pace, let's put it that way.
Well, maybe it is going to be Michael Matthews today, and it'd be fantastic to see the pink jersey. There he is on the left-hand side of your screen, just disappearing top of your picture now. Yeah, there's a number of options, as we said. I think it's still going to be one of the stronger of the sprinters, and I think Edvald Boasson-Hagen is prime for today. He's my pick.
Yeah, he's been such a promising rider. I was talking to I think it was Dara McQuaid the other day, who was kind of the main man that brought the Tour, or this Giro d'Italia, over to Ireland. Runs a company called Shade Tree Sports, which also had the Tour of Ireland at the time, and it was really there that Edvald Boasson-Hagen came onto the scene, at least into the minds of many people. He had the opportunity to race against World Tour teams under the guise of, I think, Max Bobianchi. It was his team at the time. I distinctly remember going into a corner with 400 metres to go, slightly downhill towards the finish. I was on his wheel. He kind of just dived in front of a few people, and I'd lost it, and he attacked from there and won in front of some very, very good riders. But he was so good so early, and we expected so much of him, and not to say that he's underperformed. He's won stages of the Tour de France, he's won Ghent-Wevelgem, but I think, there was a lot of talk about him being the next Eddie Merckx, which is something which a lot of people get hemmed down with in their early career if they're showing a massive amount of promise. In some ways, I think you can argue he hasn't developed in quite the rate that we expected him to. It might just have been he was already very developed at a young age, and was 95% of the way towards his potential.
Simple as. They've got other fish to fry as well. This might well come from a surprising area, today's win. What about Murillo Fischer today as a quick man? He's also a strong man. He's just wrestled his way towards the front.
Well, he's a rider who's going to be looking out of in the interest of other riders. I'd imagine he's just going to try and place Buani as close to the front as possible. Is that rain they're riding through now?
It is rain they're riding through, and the wind's picked up as well, and it's just doing damage to the hoardings.
That's going to completely change the outcome of this race.
When we go over the top and start heading down that descent as well, just hope they stay safe, because you see the black patches on the road. That is not wet road, that's newly laid tarmac, and we've mentioned this several times, Dan. When you repair a road, it can sweat a little bit in terms of the oils within the tarmac, and there are other road surface brands available. Yes, that was somebody just heading into the ditch, and one of the local ladies was thankfully at the last moment just pulled out of the way. Round, are they smiling? Are they grimacing? Well, Edvald Boasson-Hagen is in a prime position at the moment. There he is, just protected by almost a chevron of riders in front of him, and riding alongside him, Brambilla doing a decent job for Omega Pharma Quickstep. 13.2 kilometres to go then, and this is what they're dealing with at the finish line. It's horrible, Dan. I know I'm chuckling, but it's almost with sympathy here.
Yeah, and Evans will want to be as close to the front as possible for this descent which is coming up. He's got a few teammates still left with him, amongst them Morabito. They are missing the services of Sammy Sanchez. Rodriguez right up there towards the front. Micah there as well. I haven't spotted Roach just yet, but I think he probably is here for Tinkoff Saxo.
Kuna goes here, and he's a mean descender as well. Eddie Boss can go round corners brilliantly as well, particularly for a big man. 12.9 kilometres to go, and you hear the bell, which tells them they have a lap remaining. Katusha also joining the fun here, you know, and Moreno, don't count him out on a day like this.
Matthews is there, just crossing the line now in the pink. He's got Beaning with him as well. So could this possibly be a day for Michael Matthews again to win in the pink jersey? The Australian rider from Orica Greenedge has set his stalls out many days ago. Santometer just crosses the line now. He's struggling. He's got 800 metres to go to the top of the KOM. Let's see who else is off the back. I'll get some name checks for you. Sammy Sanchez just going through. Oss is going through as well.
Now, here we go. Time for rain capes for some, and they want some protection, and they want some respite in this weather. Here is Viggiano right now. 12.6 kilometres. They have crossed the start-finish line for the first time here. We have one nasty, testy, horrible ramp to go. Indeed, circuit. 12.5 remain. And everyone wants a safe piece of road. Cadell Evans has done a great job of making sure he stays in a very safe place. But there are so many riders who could win today. The man who set his stall out and said, basically, I am going to carry the pink jersey to victory on this stage, is Michael Matthews of Orica Greenedge. And his team have done a great job of helping to wind in what was an 11-man breakaway up the road. They're all together now, essentially. And the big names, the punchers, the strong, fast men are starting to come to the fore. You don't have to look far to find the likes of Edvald Bosenhagen today. We're just looking at Scarponi doing a big turn up front. Nasser Bouhanni, incidentally, yesterday's sprint winner, is not part of proceedings today. He has backed off the back. Joaquin Rodriguez is very much here, and a lot of the GC contenders. I'm just wondering whether Rodriguez, who finds himself a minute or so down, over a minute and a half in fact, might be allowed just a little bit of leeway. Not too much, you understand, because when it comes to the real alpine stuff, that's when he is going to function well. That's the climb. This is the descent. Fingers crossed for absolutely everybody, because it's a nasty road surface. It's looking very shiny and slippery, and this descent is really heart in your mouth job.
I think even for us, Carlton, watching it, it's really a case of, as you said, just keeping your fingers crossed for these guys that they stay safe on the way down. Hopefully the GC riders will come with their teams towards the front, just calm things down, make sure nobody takes too many risks. But you never know, if there's somebody that wants to really go fast and really hasn't got a team leader to look after, then they might give it a go on the descent and try and get a gap. But there's certainly a number of corners that they have to deal with on the way down, a lot of them hairpins as well. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 before they hit the reasonably flat road again and begin the last circuit properly.
Here we go. Look at the pace.
Eddie.
And it is Eddie Boss that is out front, and why not? Vicioso taking the climb ahead of Joaquin Rodriguez and Scarponi, but Edvald Bosenhagen is a good descender. The trouble is, it's about your contact patch with the road, and it is not a very nice road at all. We should really stay down there, because that's where the action's going to happen. Not really interested in a long view. We just want to stay with the riders, and here we are. I think it's because the lead motorcycle is being called away for safety reasons, so we'll just have to go at the back right now. Often cyclists can take these corners quicker than motorcyclists, and you don't want to really guide a rider into the wrong line as well. They're taking it very slowly and giving this a lot of respect down, and they need to. Well,
interestingly, it's Arredondo who's coming round this corner first at the front. The very small rider from Trek Factory Racing, who won a stage at the Tour de San Luis at the start of this year. We've still got 50-60 riders left in this group. It will string out down this descent, and they're pretty much going for it. Not much holding back, certainly towards the front at the moment.
You can see that if you get it wrong, you're going to be spat into some rather testy railings. They'll certainly test just about all of you, I'm afraid. Not a great deal of protection on a day like today. If you get it wrong any time within one of these nasty curves that they're dealing with, and there's still a few more to take. Look at this hairpin here, off camber as well, if I remember rightly from this morning. You need to stay as close to the wall as you possibly can, and Edvald Bosenhagen is doing a fantastic job of setting his sights on victory today.
Uran looked to be crossing the line in 4th position there. 5th place, Rafael Maiker, I believe, and in 6th place, Michael Matthews. What a ride by him. Should still be safe in that leader's jersey.
At this point, I thought Michael Matthews was going to deliver on his pledge of taking the day. Arredondo was looking in a great place for Trek Factory Racing. Likewise, Ed Valbosenhagen, but he just started to tire at this point. Nicholas Roach picked it back up. Absolutely a great push by him. And Cadel Evans, the great man, just going for it yet again. He's a mountain biker, don't forget, at naissance of his career. But then, well, Ulissi from Lamprey suddenly just finds the pace, and it's about injecting it at exactly the right time. And he did. What a carry that was. And then we were looking for the finish behind him, because such was his acceleration at exactly the right time that Ulissi made it count. Arms aloft, giving Italy what they want, which is a stage victory on their own Grand Tour. Cadel Evans drifted over to the far side of the road, the right-hand side, and this was the photo for second. We're still waiting, and I believe it was Cadel Evans. Your finishing result: Ulissi, Evans, Arredondo, Uran, Micah Matthews, Rodriguez, Kelderman, Pozzovivo, and Nero Quintana. I see Joaquin Rodriguez giving it a good old push. Michael Matthews really giving superb respect to that pink jersey that he is wearing.
Volevo parlare con questa ragazza, se mi permetti, con questo vestitino che sembra narrato colore alla prima comunione. Scusi, Don, ma lei non è che può fare una benedizione contro il tempo, cioè ci fa una telefonata a qualcuno, uno lassù, magari.
It's definitely going to be a bit harder than yesterday. It's a bit more of a solid climb today, but yeah, I'll definitely do my best to survive and to try and keep the jersey. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a hard all day out there for everyone. It's 260k in the end, so yeah, I think everyone's in the same boat for the conditions today. So yeah, I'll definitely be doing my best to try and keep the jersey.
I thought no use, man. How was
bottom of screen right now. Stage winner in Trentino, and he's very, very good at being a late attacker. Now, he's quite strong as well, particularly in this kind of terrain, and holds something back, measures himself beautifully. He's 24 years of age, and so even though he's in a break, it might well be, even if they're caught, that he stays up there and then goes again. He's that kind of guy, so don't be surprised. They've also got Strength in Abundance Bardiani, so you might be seeing these lime green boys to the fore. The likes of Battaglin and Perazzi have also shone on the Giro in the past and might well do so again today. Androni Giocattoli also represented, you can see just at the nose of the trio ahead of, for the time being anyway, of Zardini, is Bandiera. He was 6th in the Het Nieuwsblad last year, I think it was. Went very well. They've got a Colombian, as ever, it seems, in the break. They do a good job of keeping us mindful of them. Torres, it is, the 27-year-old. They also have Andrea Fedi in the break. Now, he was 6th in the Duado Drenthe. 4th on stage 5 in Turkey as well. That was for the quick men into Turgatrice. You remember Viviani beating Cavendish in one of his 2 victories over Cav. Cav himself taking 3, of course, in that tour. So amongst the break, we've got some decent hands, but unfortunately, Sky and Orica are very motivated today with good reason.
Yeah, they've both got good reason to work on the front. Orica's is very obvious. Of course, they've got a jersey to defend today. They've been doing it so well for the whole race since the first team time trial so far. Sky, well, I think they're probably working today for Edvald Boasson-Hagen. Whether or not he can stay up there at the finish remains to be seen. He kind of faded slightly towards the end yesterday. He went with the duo of Katusha riders, Moreno leading out to Rodriguez. They were all caught, and actually Boasson-Hagen, the last rider to finish in the group at 1 second behind Diego Ulissi. So he faded towards the top yesterday. Slightly flatter finish today, but at the same time the rest of the climber, in fact, a little bit harder. So we have to stay within the group in order to have a chance. But they've also got the intermediate sprint coming up a little bit later on. There are 4 riders, of course, in front, but that leaves 1 or 2 points left for the first rider of the bunch across the line, and I'm sure we'll see a competition between Viviani, Swift and a couple of the other sprinters to get those final points.
Let's hope that Vesuvius, which is in the vicinity today, just remains a little bit quiet. Yeah, hometown of the famous philosopher Giordano Bruno. That's Joe Brown to you and me. Yes, wrote a few sort of philosophical pieces about life, the universe, and absolutely everything. So yeah, why don't you check out Mr. Bruno next time you're passing by Nola. Yes, another example of the Doma. Nobody really knew how these were constructed, but the Italians let the secret out reasonably quickly, and they spread as an architectural form throughout the globe. Here we are, 109 kilometres to go. We've got 4 men in the break, as we have mentioned. We were talking as well at the top of the show very briefly there, Dan, about how you measure yourself on a day like today, and it really is about your own physical management, knowing yourself, and of course for the director sportifs, just knowing how to sort of plan the day and how much effort to put in, and indeed when.
Yeah, some days are a lot more complicated to predict than others, and you know, some teams will have very complicated strategies for certain days, whilst other teams maybe don't have the same thoughts or processes beforehand and simply want to get into the breakaway. And of course we see a lot of similar teams in the breakaway each day. Generally the invited teams, all of whom are in the breakaway, well, all of the breakaway riders are from invited teams, and by that I mean not a part of the World Tour, so they have to get a wildcard entry into these World Tour races. So 3 Italian teams up front, Androni, Neri, Sotoli and of course Bardiani, along with the Colombian team who we've seen in the break pretty much every day so far. No World Tour teams present. I think they all want to save some energy today, do their work for their team leaders towards the end, and it's a long day to be in the breakaway with just 4 riders. We've already mentioned it before, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot over the course of today about how long this race is in the saddle. There's Manuel Quinziata of BMC just having a chat to our camera motorbike pilot. He was of course instrumental in making sure that the racing continued in Barry a couple of days ago and that they didn't sit up on the finish line.
Yeah, he double or quits bet with Sophie, one of our producers, and looks like I've lost it. Yes, I thought it was going to stay dry today. Unfortunately, under my erroneous advice, many people have decided not to go for the rain gear, me included. So it looks like we're going to get a dowsing later on when we walk back down the mountain to where we were allowed to park our car.
No thanks to me for walking back down to get our coats before we came on.
Thanks, mate, but I didn't go for the waterproof one. Dan Lloyd, incidentally, has got his silver rubber gear. I kid you not. It's like a sou'wester. So you'll be seeing that as part of the interview ceremonies later on. Time for a bit of a snack. Look like some of them have got deep fried cheese balls. Tried some of those the other day. Unfortunately, when we said yes, we didn't realise how much they were. €4 for a ball of cheese fried in breadcrumbs. It was absolutely delicious, I'll give you that, but €4 did seem a bit steep. Sort of thing you'd be prepared to pay €1 for from a street vendor, but, you know, all right, it was nice surroundings. We've stroked the walls. We'll have more on Monte Cassino a little bit later, I think I need to hide now. Eduardo Zardini. We're just going through, actually. We've got virtual jerseys keep cropping up on your screen, courtesy of the break, to be honest. And there's the virtual standings as they are now. But this break's not. It's a little import, so let's put it that way. Tell you who went very well yesterday, and I love to see it, was Cadel Evans, who picked up some vital bonus seconds on a day when you'd expect him to be in a safe spot, but he looked fantastic.
Yeah, he did look very sprightly indeed, and well, it's not unfamiliar to us to see Cadel Evans doing very well, especially at the start of a Grand Tour. Last year, of course, finished third overall. I think many people doubt him all the time, but he continues to come back and impress, and I think it's just the continuity which which we hope to see from him this year, to have that chance of standing on the final podium. Of course, he still has a decent gap between himself and some key rivals. He sits in third place overall now, does he, or is he second? Anyway, either way, he stands a very good chance of going into the pink jersey today if Matthews is dropped.
Yeah, I don't think Matthews will be dropped today. The climb, incidentally, the last 8.5 kilometres, or 8.7, the toughest bit is right at the beginning, and then it sort of levels out to about 6%. It's around 10 as you introduce yourself to the climb. Hello, climb. And then the last 180 metres are reasonably flat, so if you've got sprinting legs and you manage to get a bit of recovery into those, it could be a quick finish. Well, it will be a quick finish. It just depends whether some of the faster men are actually there to dominate it.
Yeah, it certainly does, and it's as we always say, very much depends on how the bunch approach the climb, and when they get to the foot, the first part is the hardest today, as opposed to yesterday where it came towards the finish. So if they hit it really, really hard and one team really pushes on at the start today, then we could see lots of riders flying out the back immediately, and it continues at a pretty steady gradient the whole way up this final climb today, which is also longer than yesterday's stage. 8 kilometres is the 8.7 in fact is the total distance of the climb at 5.1%, so it is a real test, but it needs somebody to I think, rather than perhaps attacking, because I think people will be able to bring them back in, it needs a team to really ride hard from the bottom if they want to have a small group at the top. And, will we see any GC teams doing that? I'm not sure. It wasn't a big climb, it was only a fourth category. Torres was the rider who went over that first in front of Zardini. Bandiera there in third place.
Here is the overall standings by team. Astana have been extremely well placed. They've taken over from Orica Greenedge. There is actually a super team standings as well, which is your best 3 placings along the way. What was it? By magic. Giant Shimano. This is courtesy, more or less, of the wins taken by Marcel Kittel at the top of this Giro d'Italia. Sadly, Kittel no longer with us. That looks like a mushroom cloud, doesn't it?
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, that is one collapsing cloud as we speak, and it's dumping its moisture, thankfully, somewhere else for the time being. Well, here we are. This is one of the stiffer climbs. Looks 100% to me. There we are. I think we've gone a bit artastic.
It's difficult to I mean, I think we've had this discussion before, and you felt like you danced it for me, but I still don't feel like I fully know. A discussion about how converting from kind of a 1 in 4 gradient to percentage, where of course you'd think that 1 in 4 is 25% normally.
It
1
is,
in 10 is 10%. But a vertical gradient would presumably be 100%, would it?
Yeah.
So what's 1 in 1? Which normally
that would be 45, wouldn't it?
degrees. It's quite confusing actually if you start to think too much about how conversions of gradients happen. I've never quite got my
it's that imperial. It's that imperial. It's the old ways versus the new, I guess. But yeah, the simple way of working out these days is basically they take it over 100 meters, and however many you rise within that works out your percentage. So it's basically how high you travel in altitude over 100 meters.
So a 45-degree gradient is 100%, is it? And so that was really me starting with power meters.
That is just one of the jammy. Honestly, Dan Lloyd is one of the luckiest men on earth. Freebies fly his way. You know, even from complete strangers who don't know who he is. We'll give you a list of them at some point, but it really is quite irksome. Here we go.
I'll continue with my power meter discussion after we've called these guys through this intermediate sprint.
Exactly. Now there are time bonuses up for grabs. It's of no great importance to these guys who find themselves at a reasonable deficit. 7 minutes and 5 down by our Colombian Torres. 16 minutes plus deficit for Bandiera, 4 minutes 53 for Zardini of Bardiani in the green, and Fedi is 16 minutes and 18 down for Neri Sotoli in the yellow. But hey, why not just at least get yourself on the book, as it were, and it looks like they may well just roll through. It doesn't look that feisty. Expect there to be more of a fight for the guys behind, because there's a whole raft of points down for the red jersey competition. There is that sprint line.
Yep, no battle between these four. Just said not much to gain for them. None of them are interested in the points jersey overall. Well, at least they don't really have a chance of doing anything in that competition. And also, none of them, you know, it's going to make much difference to them to have any bonus seconds, of which there are 3, 2 and 1 available for the first 3 riders across the line. 2 points is all that's left available for the riders behind, but I still think we'll see a big fight to get them. Viviani and Ben Swift certainly set their stalls out yesterday and made it very obvious that they're keen to get the points in that competition for the points jersey, because they made it into the breakaway. Swift coming out on top ahead of Viviani yesterday, and Farah in 3rd place. So 2 points left. Doesn't sound like very many, but these competitions can come down to the wire, so all the points will count.
Well, busy looking at each other. It looks like this one is going to be just handed over this time.
Well, yeah, it kind of looks like they've decided to... well, I'm not sure exactly what's happening. They've kind of let the Canadell rider off the front, and maybe they've said... Sprinter. Oh no, here they come.
At last, Buani responds. Yeah, he had that red jersey, of course, courtesy of his sprint victory, and Viviani does, in fact, pick it up. And in fact, it's well worth going for. Only Buani really does mean business. So does Viviani, and I think he's going to put most of the effort in here. And here comes Ben Swift as well. And indeed, the red jersey is not going to get there, is he?
Oh, there's a Bardiani rider just going to pip into the...
And we like that.
Is that Colbrelli?
I'll tell you something, Buani's not going to like that at all. Right, that's you on
no, it's not Colbrelli, I don't think.
Yeah, well, why not? You know, why should too much respect be handed out in a situation such as this? Nice to see him going for it. I like that.
I have to get confirmation. Actually, I'm afraid to say I don't recognise the rider from the front there, but they've got a few sprinters have Bardiani. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Ruffoni, actually.
Well, quite right too. Why should, you know, noblesse oblige, they say in France, which basically means just let the big boys have it. Well, no, not on this occasion, and I like that. We've had another tumble, I'm afraid, and this doesn't look overly healthy, at least for the time being, at least as far as the bike is concerned, I should say. Waiting for service. Has he got it? Oh, dear. He's got his chain trapped over the pedal here. I like that.
Yeah, you certainly surprised the rest of them, didn't he? We were expecting a battle between the top 3 sprinters left in the race, and well, he came around all of them.
Yeah, get in, he said. Thank you very much. I'll have those points. No gifts in cycling, and being proved right here. 75 kilometres to go.
Or, you know, chosen to take the initiative today. I think they could have pretty much let Orica Green Edge do the work on the front. I don't think they would have shied away from it today to try and defend the pink jersey for another day. In fact, I had Cedric Vasseur, the French commentator, former yellow jersey in the Tour de France come over and ask me, hey, who are they working for? He can't understand it. He thinks the climb's far too hard for Edvald Boasson-Hagen at the finish today. Probably should have mentioned that on air in case he wins now and Vasseur's unknowingly embarrassed.
Yeah, bragging rights and in fact dissing rights get handed out liberally in this game. Cafe Roubaix has written on Twitter, said how amazing it is to see Tuft at the front all day, keeping the pace. He is a beast. He's the kind of guy as well who just thrives on that kind of punishment. He actually loves it.
I think he genuinely does enjoy riding on the front. It's almost like the closest that you get to solidarity, isn't it? Unless you're in a solo breakaway, which we don't see too many times over the course of a season. So yeah, Sven Tuft loves being on the front on his own, no one coming near him. Just the view of the motorbikes and cars ahead to keep him company.
Yeah, exactly. A bit of a basilted river here, which tells you that there's a lot of limestone in the locale. It looks absolutely glorious when the sun shines upon it, but in the dull, like now, it looks like clay slip. Oh, I'm getting all potteries now. Yes, through one of the defended bridges, as you can see, an ancient one with a modern one, just to the top of your picture. 65.4 kilometres to go. Yesterday we decided, as we'd arrived extraordinarily late, we'd just go on to one of the advisory sites and take potluck with a restaurant. I know some of you want to know what we get up to at night. We went for a tasting menu. 30 euros. Absolutely spectacular. Favourite element of it, because we had plenty of little dishes coming through. Not talking about the staff. Yes, we had this amazing wild mushroom pasta, which was an absolute joy, plus flagons of never-ending wine, it seems. We asked for the wine of the house, and they said, well, it just when we finished one, we said, can we have another one? I said, yeah, it's Avalante, you can have as much as you want. We were restrained.
Time trialling and long climbs, but don't have the acceleration, and I think Carlos Sastre was a prime example of that. My ex-teammate who won the Tour back in 2008, incredibly consistent, just didn't have the punch. And the great thing about cycling is that you just get people in between types as well, so they're good on climbs, they're good on time trials, and they're a little punchy in finishes as well. And I think yesterday's winner, a prime example of that, Diego Ulissi, not amongst the best climbers when it comes to the big mountains, but he's pretty good, and you know, by an amateur level, exceedingly good. And he's not the best sprinter, but when it combine the two, and it's a climb which doesn't whittle down too much, but comes to a small sprint at the finish, he's fantastic for that. I think Edvald Boasson-Hagen, or kind of similar in some ways, and slightly over to the other sprinter side more so, and less of a climber. But yeah, it's an intriguing sport from that point of view. You can't really put everybody into the same category, and I think that's why we get so many differences in body shapes that are able to make a profession of this sport. So you've only got to look at the likes of Johan van Summeren, the extremely tall Belgian rider who won Paris-Roubaix for Garmin Sharp, and then somebody like Samuel Dumoulin, the French rider from Cofidis, and Arredondo here as well. I mean, he's so small, you just caught a glimpse of him actually at the back of this Trek Factory Racing team just now. Third yesterday, he must be struggling to go over 5 foot, I'd imagine.
There are some doing. This is a crazy little manoeuvre. Some guys have been caught the wrong side of the barriers here. They're on the wrong side of the road, and I imagine that they might find themselves in a bit of bother. There you are. Well, it wasn't that much. They were being directed one side, and I think a few of the riders thought, hang on, we might get ourselves into trouble here. The road system in Italy is spectacularly hard to fathom. You're driving around here, you get onto a slip road, and you really don't know which way it's going to take you. It's as if when they were designing it, they just dropped a bit of spaghetti on the paper and thought, yeah, that'll do. We've been whinging about it for the last few days, quietly, and it's finally bubbled to the surface. 50 kilometres to go, and a gap of 4 minutes and 2. The pace has been upped ever so slightly, and mainly by Trek Factory Racing, I've got to tell you. Arredondo is a man who clearly feels that he's got something to offer today. He did yesterday, just picked himself up a puncture, and there it is. There's your marker as we head for Monte Cassino. 4 riders up the road. They've been here for much of the day. In fact, all points, KOMs and intermediate sprints have gone their way. It's all about the grand finale, though, and what a venue we have in store. Monte Cassino, site of many, many battles in the Second World War. Different kind of fighting going on today. Thank heaven, peaceful. But will be very busy, that's for sure. He sounded a bit crestfallen when we spoke to him that it hadn't really worked out for him. But his team have sacrificed themselves again. He's been well protected today in that pink jersey. And he's running into this climb looking very, very strong indeed. One man who hasn't been hiding at all is Arashiro for Team Europe car. I'm wondering whether he might have a go himself, actually. He's looking very determined. 13.6 still to go. And we are approaching the turn onto the climb. 7 hairpins, let's remind you, over the 8.5 kilometre reach. And in fact, the steepest part, Dan, comes early on. Yeah, right at the foot. As soon as they take the turn onto the climb, they'll hit ramps of 10%. So if they hit it hard, then that's really going to put or sap the legs straight away. From then on, it kind of continues on at 5%. It's pretty steady gradient all the way up. As you said, Carlton, they'll have to deal with some hairpins there. 6.2% a little bit further up, with around about 3Ks to go to the finish, and then just the last 200 or 300 metres flattening off slightly to the slightly shallower 2 or 3%. But I think they're going to hit things fairly hard today. You can see how quickly they're going in the peloton at the moment. All of the big teams up towards the front, keeping the pace high, keeping their leaders up towards the front. Well, again, it's something that's very, very hard to predict. Not long now. Was it 4.4 kilometres before they hit this climb? Yeah, and only 15 seconds is the gap between the breakaway riders and the pack. So it's all over for the breakaway. They've already shaken hands, and somebody's been out there with the powder paint. That'll be washed away before you know it. They're already checking over their shoulders. They know that they are cooked for the day, or is it boiled? They'll be certainly warm enough, but it is extremely wet. At least the rain has now abated. At the finish, it's turned to drizzle and has now stopped. However, further down the mountain, as you can see, still very much the rain is falling. Let's hope that we can't use that word to apply to any of the riders today, and that they stay on board. At least it's a climb, and we haven't got a nasty descent to deal with, except for once they've finished their duties today, and they'll edge their way back down the mountain to their team buses. The breakaway just pulled to the side of the road. The call goes up all together with 12.2 kilometres to go, and just look at the pace in the run to the foot of this climb. Everyone wants a piece of this mountain. Wow. Oh, amazing. That is really, really fast. Looking at the kind of gears they're in at the moment and the speed those legs are turning, the cadence there, they must be around about 55 k's per hour, and you can see the desperation in the group behind as they shuffle past the breakaway, which slips back very, very quickly. They'll try and hang on to the back of this peloton, at least till the foot of the climb. Oh, and the speed that they were going, it just came into it too fast. Tyler Farrar was the Garmin rider who was on the floor there, and he was down for a while. Thankfully, he's back up on his, well, he's not on his bike, he's perhaps waiting for a spare, just assessing his injuries. He's there with Nathan Haas, but further up the road, even more. Who's that, 63? Oh, we're waiting to get confirmation, but this is not great, and it's not the sort of thing that we were hoping for, obviously. It's a desperate road surface suddenly when the rain comes down like this, and almost light rain is worse than anything. It's one of the Katusha riders who's actually staying down
Caruso.
Caruso, and that does not look great. I'm just trying to get an identity on the Movistar rider, and I think it's Amador that's on the deck. Meanwhile, BMC, clever stuff. They were staying safe by getting where they should be, and I think that Neri Satoli rider is Finetto, that's very, very high up here, just behind Matthew. Group. It's unbelievable. This is so stripped down and almost bare. They can't help but go for this. No, well, that group was, what, about 12 strong, predominantly BMC riders. Cadel Evans safely up there towards the front. Michael Matthews, for Australian viewers, he was also, of course, there in the pink jersey. It's nice to see friends and riders from other teams staying with Caruso here, just to make sure he's okay. He's got the doctors with him, he'll be well cared for, but yeah, it doesn't look good, Carlson, does it? No, it doesn't look very good at all, I'm afraid. We've had a terrible accident here, if you're only just joining us, which has taken out a number of riders. Many of them are actually static and teammates waiting. I'm actually wondering, because of the conditions, whether we might get a time neutralisation today, but let's just see how this one goes. Right now, at least he is conscious and talking, and for that we have to be grateful.
Yeah, in many ways, I kind of wish that they went away from these crashes after the
too.
initial images, because horrible for everybody to see, us as well, but of course for the families of the riders. There's Yanni Brakovic, he's up and talking as well, which is good to see, but not too quick to get back onto his bike. He's obviously hurt himself. The riders, they're tough souls. They might wear lycra or spandex, as you call it over in the US, but you know, they want to continue on. They'll go through a lot of crashes and pain before they'll get off the bikes, and particularly in a 3-week tour, which is so important. So if you see riders down like this for a long time, it does mean they're badly hurt. And I wish we kind of would go away from the rider here, Cardoso, at the moment. He looks to be fully conscious, but obviously hurting, and perhaps a broken bone there for him.
8.2 kilometres to go, and there has been a regrouping, but we have a very select group who managed to avoid all of the trouble. And yet again, the clever stuff of BMC got themselves into a safe place. The Italian champion is here, just trying to get a Nerisitoli ride. Netto, is it? No, it's not. It's Rabatini for so he's in a privileged position as well. A man who is an excellent breakaway rider. The field has been cast asunder by a huge crash at the foot of the climb to Monte Cassino. The desperation to be in a good position for this climb, unfortunately, has had a big cost, and the doctors are attending those who are still on the ground. Joaquin Rodriguez, probably the biggest of the failures yet again. Ill fortune for him, and it's a virtual write-off, I'm afraid, especially added to the 90 seconds he lost in the team time trial. Monte Cassino. Oh, ominous. The clouds rolled in. The rain again did its job of hampering proceedings. Remember all the tumbles in Bari? It was almost worse here because it was in tight circumstances with road furniture all over the place. We had riders all over the place, and it's not been a pleasant sight. Well, they'll ride in, and they really will feel like they've earned their money today. Across the road they come. Across the line, I should say. Just over 2 minutes. There we are. What a sad day today it has been. The finish of today, it's that 180 metres where it flattened out, and so it became the end of what has been a flattish day plus a climb. It ended up being a sprint at the end, and Michael Matthews and the pink jersey getting the stage win he has been looking for, albeit not perhaps in the circumstances he would have wished. Matthews takes it same time as Tim Mellons and Cadel Evans, who finished third today. Rabatini in fourth place, all of those with the same marker. Santa Romita 13 seconds down, with Morabito, Kellerman, Finetto, Ulissi coming home in that group 49 seconds down. My goodness. Well, the medical staff are going to have their work cut out today. It's been a tough old course, I'm afraid, and it really has bitten in changeable weather conditions once more. Here's your overall standings. Michael Matthews leads Cadel Evans, courtesy of the bonus he's taken at the line here by 21 seconds now. Rigoberto Urán a minute and 18 down, Morabito a minute and 25, Rabatini, Santa Romita, these are the guys that got through clean today. Aru, Valens and Ivan Basso 2 minutes and 6 down, with Quintana 2 minutes and 8. there's going to be some big gaps. Quintana, 2 minutes and 8 down after 6 stages. You'd think that is a disaster, but believe me, there are far greater sufferers down there.